Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. We'll be right back to the show. But before we do, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, factormeals.com, where if you go to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50, you can get 50% off your first order. That's factormeals.com/unbroken50. If you're like me and you are a person who is busy trying to create a life, heal, work on their health, wealth, and relationships, and not to mention deal with the day-to-days of normal life, you do not have time to be going to the grocery store and trying to figure out what you're going to cook every single day of the week. In fact, one time I did the math and I realized I was spending over 15 hours a week at the grocery store and cooking. When I added Factor, I got to use that time for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for my business. And so if you're in the place where you need some more support in the kitchen, head to factormeals.com/unbroken50 and use the code unbroken50 to get 50% off. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of life coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program. Have you ever been in a toxic or abusive relationship? What's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world today. Very excited for today's episode with life strategist Ana Lennyr. I was very excited to have her on the show after having our pre-chat interview a few months ago, because she is helping people get out of depression and anxiety while simultaneously learning how to build and create healthy relationships. I asked you that question just now. Have you ever been in a toxic or abusive relationship? And I know that's a question that we hate to ask ourselves. And for many of us, the answer is yes. For me, for a very long time, the answer was unfortunately yes. I was in probably the most emotionally abusive relationship you could ever imagine. Never physically, thank goodness, but definitely emotionally. I've kind of hinted at it a couple times in the history of the show. But when I was sitting and chatting with Ana, she said something really interesting to me that dawned on me that actually is really one of the catalysts for changing the way that I approach relationships, both intimacy and friendships, business relationships, relationships with my family, but most importantly, the relationship with me, the relationship with myself. And what she said that sat with me so strongly was, we get back what we are. And I was like, damn, that's so true. Because when you're hurt, when you're broken, when you're in this place in your life where you are blaming the world, where you're the victim, you find yourselves in relationships that are reflective of that. And that held true for me. And so in this episode, what I'm really excited about is Anna's going to break down not only the 4 archetypes of both men and women, but she's also going to break down the key to getting into a healthy relationship and how to get yourself out of depression and anxiety. This episode's absolutely phenomenal. I was taking notes as we went because I really think that it's important for people who are learning, like myself, to be present and be in the moment. And I know that I'm going to take this and apply this to what's next in my life. I certainly hope that you do. We'll put all the links in the show notes for Anna's courses, which you can actually take for free. So make sure you listen to the episode as she gives that. Or if you go to thinkunbrokenpodcast.com, find this episode, you'll be able to click the link to go and take her free courses. But without further ado, my friends, let's get into the show. Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Welcome to the Think Unbroken podcast. I'm your host, Michael Unbroken, and this podcast is about helping trauma survivors let go of the past, overcome their fear, discover their identity, become the hero of their own story, and ultimately to be unbroken. Our goal in company is to bring on guests and experts in the fields of mental, physical, and psychological health to help you overcome the past, to take back your power. And in this podcast, we are unedited and unfiltered, and we're going to give it to you real so that you can start to create massive change in your life. If you're curious about learning more outside the podcast, you can get a free copy of my book, Think Unbroken, at book.thinkunbroken.com. That's book.thinkunbroken.com, where you can get a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Think Unbroken: Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma. The most important thing that you can ever do, my friends, is show up for yourself, and that's where you are today. And I appreciate you. I have massive gratitude for you. And without further ado, let's get into the show. We'll be right back to the show, but before we do, I'm going to take a moment and tell you about my new book, Unbroken Man, A Man's Guide to Being the Hero of Their Own Story. I sat down a few months ago and realized that there are so many men in the world that need guidance, that need support, that need to learn about trauma, removing themselves from toxic masculinity, breaking down the barriers to vulnerability, getting unstuck, and ultimately learning the tools to become the hero of their own story. Unbroken Man is available for pre-order right now if you go to men.thinkunbroken.com, where you'll also get access to over $1,000 in bonuses, including the 6-week in-depth trauma healing coaching app, which you'll get instant access to. I created Unbroken Man to be accessible to everyone around the world, but it is written for men from the guise of a man, and I hope that you will find it to be a practical tool on your healing journey in the same way that thousands of men around the world have. So check out men.thinkunbroken.com to pre-order, and until next time, be unbroken. Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world today. I'm very excited to be back with you with another episode with my guest, Ana Lennyr, who is a premier life strategist. I'm very excited for this episode. Anna, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael, for inviting me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. You and I spoke a couple of months ago, and I just felt so compelled by not only your story, but your mission and what it is that you're trying to do and create in the world. And before we get in too deep, tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I have one of those sad stories that I don't like to tell very often. You know how that goes, right? Just because it's not very unique. It's involving a lot of people even today in the world. So it looks like a story, but it's more like an universal story where a child wakes up depressed around the age of 7 or so, then ends up with that depression taking him to, or her, in my case, at the age of 19, to suicidal attempt. Fibromyalgia, headaches, migraines, insomnias for 2.5 years. So one of those lives that has been starting with suffering, right? So after I saw that this stuff doesn't work, that I have a problem and I need to solve it, I went to University of Psychology, tried to fix myself. I haven't succeeded. because there were no skills there. I lost my mom to alcoholism and depression. She was 55 when she died overnight. So until the age of 38, my life equaled suffering. Very simple, with all kind of physical issues and all kind of depressive issues and anxiety issues, until I decided to take charge of it, to not leave my kid to this generational depression as a victim. And I succeed to overcome depression in 7 months. And today I teach that formula to people that I work with.
Wow, that's really powerful. And, I think that there's part of me that agrees with you to a very interesting extent. There's unfortunately kind of a lack of uniqueness in our shared experience. And, obviously you and I spoke before, my background, everyone listening does as well. And, I think that that's incredibly unfortunate that we live in a society where it's more alcoholism, more depression, more abuse, more of that. And ultimately that becomes the cornerstone for this show. I think that, Anna, there's a lot of people who are listening right now who are suffering through depression, who are suffering through the generational trauma, who are trying to figure out kind of like, man, like, where do I start? What are the first steps? And they hear somebody like you say, well, I was able to do this in 7 months, right? And they're like, I've been depressed for 17 years. Where do you start at? Where's the beginning of this process at?
The beginning of this process is deciding to stop suffering. Okay. So when I went to my mentors and I said, listen, I want to live 1 week happy before I die because my mom never had this chance. The first question they asked me is, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 38. Are you 38 or 83? Right? Because you feel like 83 years old when you are suffering from depression for over 27 years of your life. This is how you feel. Every day is a struggle. Right? But here is, you start with making the decision that, listen, this needs to end. It has been enough. It has been taken enough of me. It's ready to kill me. I had fibromyalgia. My son was carrying me from the couch to the bathroom. We're talking about an 8.5-year-old. Headaches, migraines, pre-NASH, non-alcoholic liver hepatitis, pre-diabetes, obesity. This all at the age of 38. I mean, what else can it happen to you at the age of 38? I mean, come on, let's face it, right? So the first thing that I did is acknowledge that, listen, everything I tried by myself, it doesn't work. Time to stop what I thought it's working and to start doing what is truly working with the help that I need. So here it started with making a decision to get out of the situation.
Yeah. And in that decision, what I think is interesting about that, as I, even thinking about my own journey, it really truly was just making a choice. You said something about choosing not to suffer. I think, unfortunately, we're so trapped in that, and people will hear this, but it feels impossible just to choose. Is it as simple as just being like, I'm choosing this? Can it actually be that easy?
So you are choosing this. Okay, number one. And then you're also choosing not to bring your way of thinking into the problem, right? For example, my mom was a teacher. I was very educated. I finished 2 universities in the same time. I finished psychology, right? University of Psychology, where I finished with a scholarship. I thought I knew it all. And when I went to my mentors, they said, yeah, you know all about suffering. The only thing you don't know is about how to live. Right? So here, when you make the decision to leave your way of, I know it all, to, and start brand new. No, I don't know anything about the game of life, because today our motto is master the game of life. And this was the truth. I didn't know anything about the game of life. I knew everything about the game of suffering, right? So yeah, you make a decision. Don't bring that baggage of thinking that I know it all into the problem and start at zero. No, I don't know anything. Clearly, I don't know anything because I'm suffering, right? So let's start from zero. Let's learn how to walk. And this is exactly what I do when I work with people. My formula is first relationships. Master relationships with yourself and others, because this is the first bicycle you're going to get on into the world. It doesn't matter at what age. And we people who have been suffering for depression and anxiety, and this is the first thing we don't have, relationship skills.
Let's go into that a little bit more, because I would agree. And when I go back and I think about kind of the crux of the beginning of this journey for me, it was really fascinating to look at kind of coming to terms with the fact that so many people in my life had been telling me, you're a terrible friend, you're a terrible brother, you don't show up, you don't follow through, you take advantage of people, you're not someone that we can trust or rely on. And it became really evident to me that two things happened in my life. One is I became the polar opposite of all of those things over a long enough period of time, let me be clear. But two, I noticed that a lot of the people who I thought, quote unquote, I was friends with that mattered. And it's not that they don't matter. It's just like they weren't bringing value to my life. They're bringing no substance. I think people feel so often, and I'll speak for myself, I felt so often at the time, especially in the beginning of this, like the most important thing for me to do was make everybody like me, was to feel like I mattered because they thought I mattered. So with relationships being first, Anna, why don't we dive into that? And why don't you clarify, what do you mean by relationships? And then how do they play into this game of life?
So many people, as you were labeled, right? It's like you're not a good friend, which means like you're like toxic or something, right? So a lot of times people come to me and say, oh, I have this toxic environment. I'm like, no, you do not have a toxic environment. You have people around you who are in a tremendous amount of pain. And to help with that, first of all, you don't have to take over their pain. And then you have to see their pain to separate from it, and to see where the triggers are. But in case of relationships, we're talking about a simple thing. Number one, misconceptions, like you have to make everybody happy before you are happy. And this happened during COVID, and it got accelerated because guess what? Now that you can make anybody happy and you of yourself, you realize that you are the one hurt, that is nobody else to blame. And the second thing that I see all the time is that most people do not know that there are 4 types of men and 4 types of women in the world. I know we all want to be unique and different and all of that. I am one of the 4 types of women. Okay. Michael, you are one of the 4 types of men in the world, right? And when I teach this, the 4 types of men and 4 types of women to my clients, they realize that each type has its own values in life, has its own way of thinking, has its own priorities in life, right? And because they realize that, now they don't blame themselves or the other type for a different way of thinking or a different approach, right? I have a lot of women that come to me and they said, oh my God, my husband abandoned me and left me with this kid, and he never cares about me and never pays child support and stuff like that. And I asked them, is that an airman, right? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, this has these characteristics of a man who likes freedom, who likes business, who likes money. Yeah, well, that's not a man for the family. Right? So if you know this from the beginning as a woman, right, that this particular man is not built for family, you're not going to worry about marrying him. You're not going to worry about having a kid with him, because that's not the proper man. And that's not to blame that type of man. It's just that man has different values in life. And you cannot change people. You can only accept their values and maneuver towards what you want. After 2 divorces by the age of 38, I found the relationships that I teach today the most enlightening to absolutely everybody, because we all go on misconceptions about love, thinking that love is just going to come in and is just going to complete us. And after 2-3 years, we found out that it's actually the opposite. It's here to hurt us. And that's because we don't understand these 4 types of men, the 4 types of women, the archetypes between them, and how people don't come into our life to hurt us. People come with different values. We think that everybody thinks like us. That's the only problem, right? So here is like, I think everybody should think like me. And then no wonder, no, not everybody thinks like me. There are another 3 types of women in the world. There are another 4 types of men. So here I teach people, listen, what do you want? Well, I want this. Okay, this is the type of person you want. To get this type of person, you need to be this, right? So here is how do you arrange yourself in the system of life, in the cycle of life, to find what you truly want and how you can be complete. Don't expect another to complete you. So in kinds of relationships, I find the most illuminating thing in the world, this kind of 4 types of men, 4 types of women. We had somebody, a young kid. He's like, I think I'm depressed. I went into 1,000 dates and I can't find anybody. What is wrong with me? I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I don't think you're depressed either. I think you don't know who you are and who you're looking for. Here, do this 3.5-hour course and then call me. After 2 weeks, he called me and said, I already found, after 8 dates, my fiance. I was like, okay, well, I guess the course worked for you. Okay, we didn't have even to ask for advice, right? Because if you don't know who you're looking for and who you are, you're going to end up in messed up relationships. There are 4 types of relationships that don't work and 2 that work. If you saw 1 type that doesn't work, you're going to end up in the other 3 that don't work. Because this is how the cycle works. You need to learn from all 4. So here I give a formula to people here. Listen, forget about what doesn't work. This is what works. So just do it, period, right? And everybody said it's too easy. Okay, try it. It is easy, but it's going to save you from 2 divorces. It's going to save you from 20 years of your life of worrying about other people not liking you. That includes not only your partners, your boss, your parents, your kids, your coworkers, right? Because relationships is everything. These 4 types of men and women, they're in everything, not necessarily love partners, right? But a lot of people come to me because they're heartbroken and they're afraid to find other people because guess what? They don't know this system of how to master relationships. So that's what I found it the most enlightening thing in the world. Most people are not even depressed. They just have been heartbroken and they don't know how to find themselves in the relationship with themselves or others, or how to find the person that they really want in life.
Yeah. And I want to go into what those archetypes are a little bit deeper. One of the things that came to mind as you were going through that is, so my mentor, Tom Bill, you taught me something really important about this idea of collision of values in relationships, and it being this thing where because you lack a tremendous amount of clarity about who you are and what you want, and vice versa from the other person, you're going to be like a head-on collision just waiting to happen. And so I'd love for you to dive into a little bit deeper about these archetypes so that folks listening can have a little bit of a better understanding. Now, obviously, we can't give people a 3.5-hour course in 35 minutes, but we can give them a little bit of context. So I'd love if you dive into those a little bit more, and then specifically talk about the kind of relationships that do work, because I agree with you. Why focus on what doesn't work when we should be focusing on what does?
So the 4 types of men, I like to make these energies in elements because it's easier to consume, right? So the 4 archetypes, I call them water, fire, air, and earth because they're easy to consume. So the 4 types of men would be the waterman, would be the creator. You find this in engineers, designers, artists, right? And they are people who their first value in life is their creation. This is why they live for. They're like the Michelangelos of the world, okay? Michelangelo didn't care about the family, didn't care about the kids, didn't care about business, okay? Michelangelo didn't care about any of this. He cared about painting. He cared about sculpturing, right? This was his contribution to society, right? So this is the creator mode in men specifically, and it's extraordinary because you need that, because this is how ideas come into the world. This is how the world comes into place. With no ideas, there is nothing, right? We don't even have a computer we're talking about right now, right? So that's the first type of man. The second type of man is the fireman. That has a lot of energy. It's like the manager. It's always organizing things. It's always keeping you going. It has passion. It has drive. And you see this in people as like, go, 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 go. And sometimes you're like, really? We're going to keep going? Isn't it tiring? No, you need that drive. You need that passion to propel yourself into the world, right? To do something, because with no drive, you're not going to do anything in life, right? The third type of man is the airman. This specific type of man is not concentrated on family, is not concentrated on kids, on wife, or anything like that, compared to a fireman who puts his wife as first in priority level. This man puts his wife last in the priority level, right? And everybody, because they're so attractive, they're businessmen, they love freedom, they have hobbies, they have friends, they have money. All women are attracted to this type of men, not realizing that this is not a good man for marriage. This is a good man for having fun. All right. But these are the entrepreneurs of the world, the visionary of the world. These are the Elon Musks of the world, where you need that drive to propel the society forward as others are going to follow. This is the man that puts into application ideas that are impossible to do, and it makes it possible. All right. And the fourth type of man, it's the earthman. And we call them kings, because they are men who take care of their domain, of their family, of their business, of their community. They're people who work in the military, in the government, the 9-to-5 jobs. And these are stable men. They also can be extremely aggressive if they have a lot of trauma. And these are the men that women are afraid of because they're aggressive. But this is only one type of men in the world, right? So this is only 25% of men. So this is why, here, who do you want in your life? Go and pick it if you know who you want, right, in your life, instead of just waiting for one to come up. And guess what? It comes up to hurt you, right? Now, let's talk about the 4 types of women, because I know that comes up too. The first type, the water woman, is the princess. It's Bambi energy. It needs a lot of attention. It has a lot of emotions. It also has a lot of love within. It's like these little young, stupid women that are always smiling and they never worry about anything. But they are so, how should I say, full of love. And they are so refreshing, right? So into the world, you need that. You don't need all the time tension. Also, these women are the first one that's going to slip in depression if they have any kind of emotional wounding, okay? Because their emotion, they're at high level. The second type of woman is the mistress. You see them in actresses. They're dressed sexy. They're all the time on high heels. They're all the time looking good, right, for themselves. They like attraction. They like to be exquisite, right? To be admired. They like that, like Angelina Jolie, right? They like these kind of things. The third type of woman is the queen, the air woman. And these are CEOs of companies. They also don't have too much intentions in families and kids. They will do it, but they're the type of women that, how should I say, they're intimidating. Right? So men are dating them because they're just like going to cut heads, right? They look good and all that. They do the job, but they are businessy. They're there into the men's world to compete with them, right? And then the 4 types of women is the mother, is the one who takes care of garden, the soccer tournament, the kids, the dogs, the pets, decorating house, okay? So this is the earth woman. All these types of men and women have their own place in the world. They have their own values in life. When you go and pick in society, who do you want to be, who you're more comfortable with, and who do you want to have in your life, you need to know this stuff because there are different dynamics between all of them.
We'll be right back, but I wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about the Think Unbroken 6-week trauma healing coaching program. If you go to coaching.thinkunbroken.com, that's coaching.thinkunbroken.com, you can sign up for the 6-week daily Think Unbroken trauma healing coaching program. In this program, we're going to go over the 6 principles of healing trauma, adaptation, understanding the impacts of trauma, how to become the hero of your own story, say, what to do next, and ultimately what it means to be unbroken. For more information about this 6-week coaching program, which you can download as an app on your phone and take with you everywhere, no matter where you are in the world, it's interactive. It's built about giving you practical tools that you can use in real time. And if you're ready for what's next in your life, go to coaching.thinkunbroken.com. Again, that's coaching.thinkunbroken.com. Now let's get back to the show. Yeah. And what comes to mind in hearing this is I think to myself, oh, there's a little bit of me in each one of these, but there's also this dominant side where I go like, yes, I think of myself in that Elon Musk-esque type where it's like, I'm entrepreneurial, I'm driven, I'm a business person, but I'm also like kind and compassionate and server of my community. And, you know, maybe I want to have a family one day and so on and so forth. But whereas like you have this artist type, I go, maybe a little bit, but mainly the entrepreneur side, right? And I think that's really important because in my own journey, I've learned that creates a collision of values when the other person doesn't understand, like, this is the type. And I'll be clear, it's probably not within the last 3 years that I've really been able to convey that. And I think if people will go back and listen to what you just said, they'll get a little bit more clarity about who they are, because we are constantly in this struggle of trying to have an understanding of who we are. And I love the simplification. Like, I'm comfortable with the idea that there are like 4 boxes because it helps me as an analytical type A person go, okay, cool, right? And because, you know, you have the Enneagram and you have the Myers-Briggs and you have all these different tests. And I'm like, yeah, but there's so many freaking variables. If you just give me 4 things and help this be easier, that's great. So now laying out these relational archetypes, how does one navigate this in the real world, right? Because you said there's all these different ways that relationships don't work, but there's this way that it does work. And I'd love for you to go into that a little bit.
Yes. So now here we go, right? You have any kind of emotional wounding that hasn't been addressed, like rejection, abandonment, humiliation, betrayal, injustice, perfectionism, any of these, you're going to find another broken person into your life. Broken attracts broken. It's the law of attraction. You attract who you are. That's why you have to be unbroken. This is why we're exactly at this podcast, right? Because this is how you want to be unbroken. Number 1, healed. Number 2, maneuvering between all these 4 elements by learning how to maneuver between them, not to judge them and say, no, I will never be this. Right? Learn from each person into your life, not consider that each person attacks you. They're here to hurt you. Right? So here is the dynamic of everybody that comes into my life that I don't agree with, it's here to teach me something. What am I missing? How am I not seeing this from their perspective, from their values? What is the lesson here? Right? So this is how more balanced you are, exactly like you mentioned. I have a little bit of everything. Yes, you have to have a little bit of everything because that's the actual balance. That's actually you live for, to learn to have a little bit of everything, but not having any kind of emotional wounding, because that will attract somebody emotionally wounded and collapse. So the perfect relationships now is like, how do you go into the strengths of these elements, a little bit in everybody, right? And how do you find somebody the same in the strengths of the elements, not emotionally, unstable, right? How do you learn from everybody? And how do you make this a complete part of yourself? Because you don't expect another to complete you. The other is only here to teach you how to complete yourself.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think people need to hear that. That, when I think about, I want to create some framework here, right? This idea of like you would bring into your life that in which you are holds so incredibly true. And so if you're sitting here and your life is a disaster, chances are your relationship's going to be a disaster. Like I literally, I won't go into details, but my relationship when I was 24, 25 years old was so incredibly, unbelievably unacceptable. Like when I think about who I am today, I say there is no way I would ever be in anything like that. You couldn't pay me to be in that kind of relationship, right? But
you wouldn't even act it on Hollywood.
I wouldn't. It's too uncomfortable, right? But in that, the thing that I came to realize was I'm getting exactly what I want. I'm getting what I want. So let's go into this a little bit deeper. Do you think, and I don't know, so let's have a little bit of parlay here. Do you think that it's necessary to heal to get the relationship that you want?
When you suffer from rejection, betrayal, abandonment, you're going to develop a codependency situation or a dependency situation, right? So this is why it's important to heal, because otherwise, without realizing, you cling to another. Like, I cannot live without you. And can be a parent, not necessarily, can be a child, can be not necessarily a partner. I'm not going to be able to live without this job. I'm not going to be able to live without him, her, or my child, my parent, right? And this comes only from emotional wounding. You either been rejected, abandoned, betrayed in the past. You haven't healed from these things. And now you cling to something thinking that this is the only way. Right? So this is why, in my opinion, it's very important to heal, because you don't want to go on a direct struggle all the time with yourself, right? In trying to maintain the balance of healthy relationships. You want to do this at some point in the unconscious level, right? Not only consciously. Well, I know he doesn't want me. Well, I know he prefers business and money and stuff like that, but I still want to get married. I still want to have kids. I'm still going to be in a relationship with him for 10 years. And then after 10 years, I figure out that, okay, well, that's not the right man for me. I always knew that. And now he wasted 10 years of my life. Or I wasted 10 years of my life. And now there is blame, and there is shame, and there is guilt involved. And there is all these dynamics involved, right? So this is why it's important. It's very, very, very good, to my opinion, to come clean slate, right? I healed the wounds of rejection, abandonment, codependencies. So I am not going to be afraid now to attract a narcissist into my life, because I'm not hurt anymore. And I'm not going to find somebody hurt anymore. And if I do find somebody hurt, I'm going to be able to recognize it and stay away from this person, not get into a relationship with this person. So this is why it's important. Sometimes we come with these wounds. I came with all of these from generations of my family. Okay, so depression is a lot of times a generational condition. Sometimes it's triggered by betrayal, but of heartbreak. But for me, it came from generations of my family, right? So I had to make peace with myself, not only with who I am, but with exactly men in my life, because I was abandoned by my father. And it was a deep anger inside me about it. And then wondering why I was divorced 2 times and betrayed and stuff like that, because that anger somehow attracted another person in pain that was doing exactly the same, hurt me, right? So here is, you need to make peace with yourself, with the universe, with the people around you, sometimes even with people who you believe they hurt you. For example, because I was abandoned by my father, I was consider myself, hurt by him. And when I put myself in his situation, would you live with an alcoholic woman just for a child? And I said, no, I wouldn't. Do you see his perspective now, Michael? Right? I mean, I was feeling hurt, but he was feeling hurt to stay with an alcoholic woman for a child too. So he escaped, right? I couldn't escape because I was the kid. I wanted to escape. I ended up, depressed because of it. But here is, nobody took care of a mother to tell her, listen, these are emotional wounds you can heal. Keep your husband and not put your kid in depression. This is why I do what I do today.
Yeah. And that's so powerful. And I think about the truth of the power of what you said. I want people to really understand that, because one of the things that has probably been arguably one of the most beneficial understandings of my life was I looked at my mother, who was a drug addict and alcoholic, whose life was a complete and utter disaster, who was totally destroyed. And I thought to myself, oh, this is now it took me a long time. Let me be clear. It took me a very long time to understand this. But what I eventually did come to understand, which actually helped me to let go of so much of the chaos of that, was I looked at her life and I said, oh, of course she's an alcoholic. Look how her mother treats her. She's still hurt. She's still wounded. She has not done the work. And the depths of the darkness, I was actually talking to a client recently, and I said, the truth about this is you have to be willing to walk into the darkness to see the light. And the more you drink, the more you smoke, the more you have sex, the more you do all these things, what inevitably happens is you're dampening your light. You're just making it darker and darker and darker. And to your point about choice, it very much is that. And so what I recognized was I had to choose to acknowledge that my mother and my father and my stepfather, my family, my community, and generations before me were all hurt people. And you hear that old adage, hurt people hurt people. Well, you know what? Healed people heal people. And so there's a yin and yang to all of this. And I want people to know, like, this isn't about casting judgment on them. Like, I don't sit here like from a throne and rain down upon them. It's more of an acknowledgement of simply sitting in it and looking at it, acknowledging it, and say, yes, this is the reality. This is what happened. For people who are listening who maybe aren't there yet, who haven't yet started to face that reality, and they have not recognized the impact of whether it's their family system or their relationship, what other than acknowledgement, like what steps, where can they find out more about what it means to be able to really come into truth, is the way that I would phrase it.
So before I answer this question, you mentioned a little bit about, when you were young and the relationships were a mess, right? But one of the things we have two parts of our company, if you want to call it this way. So one part is set up in overcoming anxiety and depression for adults and teenagers. And the other part is concentrating, and I'm going to start probably doing live events and stuff like that, in preventing this, in preventing a child from going towards this road, which is not an easy road to heal after that, right? Of preventing, because if you don't prevent this, you can't get 1 million people out of depression every year, like so many suicidals there are, right? So when I was on stage just in December with Jesse Cole and Julian Michaels and JT Fox, somebody came to me, and my youngest customer was 6 years old. Just a couple of months ago, I had the youngest customer suicidal at the age of 6. All right. So here we need to understand that this generation is accelerating, and we can prevent this. So yes, we can prevent this through teaching them specific skills, and I'll talk about it. But the first thing we need to understand is that until the age of 25, a child sets up a specific cycle. It sees from the parents or from the society or from the family around a specific type of cycle. If that cycle is a suffering cycle, there is pain, there is depression, there is alcoholism, there is argument in a divorce, there is a divorce going on, okay? There is relationship problems, abuse, any kind of mess up, right? It's gonna take that cycle and copy and paste it during their lifetime 2 more times, and here is how they're gonna live all their life. Okay, so we can change this up to the age of 25, where we can break the cycle and show the kid that, okay, we've been through all of this as parents, as society, but guess what? There is a different type of cycle. Let me show you what cycle you can have. A cycle when you get along with everybody, when you're not wounded, when you have no emotionally instability, when you have no relationship problems, and then take that cycle and go repeat it. All right. So here is very, very important to me, Michael, that we are preventing this from happening. And yes, to do this, there are 3 types of skills that people need to learn. First of all is the relationship skills that we already talked to, right? That's the first thing, because you need to know who you are, who you're in relationship with as yourself, and then who the people are around you. They're not here to attack you. They're here to teach you things, right? Any trigger is an opportunity of growth. Any trigger, right? It tells you what you haven't healed yet. The second part is emotional balance. And we have anxiety, we have worry, and we have anger that we're teaching to the kids. But they're deeper emotional wounds, like you mentioned, rejection and shame and humiliation and embarrassment and betrayal and, abandonment. And these have to do with blame, guilt, right? So there is a lot of emotional wounds that come from generation, and they hold you down. They absolutely hold you down. Like, for example, in my culture, to be a salesman was very shameful. Okay? Do you see why that culture is not going to ever be able to get out of poverty? Okay? We can't sell anything because it's shameful to be a salesman, right? You're not here to steal. You're here to help people with a product that they need, right? That's why you need salesmen in the world, right? You see how these generational 80 years old things keep down not only you, it keeps out an entire society, right? And then the third one is mind traps. I always teach my clients mind traps that you slip in all the time. There are about 17 of them, and you keep on sabotaging yourself over and over and over again without even realizing. The first mind trap that I tell everybody is, I can't. Everybody that comes to me is like, you could get out of depression, I can't. That's the first mind trap they fall into. If somebody did it before you, yes, you can. If nobody did it before you, you can be the first one. Stop making excuses. Stop falling into that mind trap that's going to keep you in suffering another couple of decades to figure it out that, oh, I just wasted half of my life in depression. Right? The second mind trap is when you find excuses. I can, but I don't have time. You don't have 3.5 hours of your life to master relationships, but you have 2 years time to divorce?
I'm laughing.
Come on, man. Right? I mean, come on, Michael. Right? I mean, if you look at it, all kind of excuses why you don't want to grow and expand. You want to stay in pain and suffering. No, you need to master the game of life because you already mastered the game of suffering, right? So these are the 3 major skills that I tell everybody you need to have a grasp on it. They're learnable skills. There are people that you have noticed, Michael, in this society where they never get depressed. It's because they have these skills. They're born with them. The ones that slip like we do, we need to learn them. They're learnable. It's not a big deal. It's just like a skill that you're learning in school, like math, right? It's not a major thing going on. I make it as simple as possible for people. But yes, you need these 3 skills: relationships, emotional skills, and mindset skills to get out of a jail of depression. This is how I call it. It's a jail. You need to snap out of there and be able to move in life and not only find your true potential, but achieve your true potential. Because to be honest, since I overcame depression and I'm doing this job with people, right, I accomplished more than 3 generations of my family.
It's amazing. Yeah. And I'm so struck by that. And, one of the things that comes to mind as you said that is, it is a jail. It is. It really, truly is. But what's really fascinating is the cell is actually unlocked and all you got to do is walk through the damn door. Right. And I wish people would understand that we are only imprisoned by what we decide to be imprisoned by. And yes, it's difficult. And yes, it's hard. Nobody's ever going to disagree that this is not, this sucks and it's hard and it's tumultuous and you have to climb a hill to get what you want. But, it really starts with just walking through that door. And
to be honest, it's harder to stay in this pain, Michael, than to get out of it. Come on, man. 7 months compared to 27 years of suffering.
Yes. And it all starts with the decisions you make right now. And my friend, this conversation has been incredible. Before I ask you my last question, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
So they can find you on my website, analennyr.com. Nevertheless, nobody knows how to spell my name. So we have a better website for you. It's called betteraskana with one N.com, where they can find everything for free. Courses for children, for parents, how to get their child out of depression, the entire formula. It's for free, and an hour and a half course for free. Have a secret map to overcome depression for adults for free. We have workshops for free. So one of the things that people in depression are afraid of is being sold, having to pay something for things, okay? So this is why we have a website with all the resources for free at betteraskana with one N.com. Because podcasters like you raise awareness. Yes, it's everybody's choice to make a decision. But we don't want people to have excuses that it costs $1. We want them to have choices.
Yep, I agree. I'm right there with you. That's why everyone knows everything that Think Unbroken teaches is on this show for free. So, Ana, thank you. I appreciate that. Of course, we are going to put all the links in the show notes for the Unbroken Nation. Please go and research and check this out. My last question for you, my friend, what does it mean to you to be unbroken?
To change the world, Michael. This is what I do. I prevent depression. I help people overcoming it, right? But the most important, to grow and expand every day. That's one thing you cannot do in the jail of depression.
Yes, very true. Thank you for that. I agree. Could not agree more. In fact, we appreciate you being here. Unbroken Nation, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. I'll see ya. Unbroken Nation, hope that you just got a tremendous amount of value from today's episode. I want to know what you think. Please do me a favor and review, rate, and share the episode with 3 friends on social media today. It would mean the world if you did, because ultimately at the end of the day, creating community and connection is how we heal generational trauma in the world. And I need your help to do that, Unbroken Nation. So if you're on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you are, please like, comment, share, review. I want to know not only what you like about the show, but how I can make the show better, how I can make this further about helping you on your healing journey. So do me a favor. And when you do, shoot me a screenshot of you making the review to my DM at Michael Unbroken on Instagram so that I can have a conversation with you, say hi, and more importantly, so I can share it with the Unbroken Nation. Thank you so much, my friend. Hey, my friends, we will be right back to the show. But I have a question for you. Are you struggling with the impact of childhood trauma? Well, know that you're not alone. I'm here to let you know that I'm starting a brand new weekly coaching group that includes a year of live coaching, accountability, support, habit and goal setting, and more. I'm starting a waitlist for the group right now, and I'm only taking a handful of people. And I'll let you know that through this personalized coaching, we'll work together to help you understand how your childhood trauma has shaped your beliefs, behaviors, emotions, and will help you create a roadmap for healing and growth. Right now, you can schedule an absolutely free coaching session with me and get put on the wait list if you go to thinkunbroken.com. My friends, it's your time to turn your trauma into triumph, breakdowns into breakthroughs, and become the hero of your own story. And I'm here to support you in doing that. Just go to thinkunbroken.com to register for a free coaching call with me and to get put on the wait list for the brand new weekly coaching program.